My name is Richard Marsden from the Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship.
I'm Jacobson from the Tattershall Defense.
It's going to show me how to hold a rapier.
Well, what we're dealing with is a lot of sort of preconceptions about how to hold a sword, or things that come from modern fencing or various different grips. And what I see a lot is people having a lot of trouble holding their heavier blades and making actions that don't support the weight of the sword or the width of the blade. And so we're going to start with, I'm going to take off my glove, take off both of them, so that you can see this more clearly. Most people tend to grip up with their sword and then they jab with their elbow, or they find that their binds are very weak. Richard wants to push on my, just right here on my strong. You can use your hand. He's going to just come in here. He's going to push on my sword, and I can't really hold it. He can push it wherever he wants. No matter how tight I grip it, he can move that sword around, and I can't really, no matter how good the strength of my body is, you can see that he's moving my sword around, and I can't stop him. I can't push his hand around or anything else like that. But I'm going to change my grip just a little bit. I'm going to loosen it, which is what everybody always says to do, loosen your grip. And when I apply the skeletal structure behind my hand, now when he comes to push my sword, I can more easily resist all those actions. I can push his hand around, and now I'm in control with my body, because everything I do is driving through my hand, up into my shoulder, and into my body. And so when it comes to binding against swords, I can be out here in my bind, and as he comes to attack me, I can easily dissuade him without having to lift my hand or turn it flat or any of those other things. I can bind him out, I can clear from the sword, I can strike him. Whereas if I grip up on that sword like this, and then he tries to attack me and I try to counter that, I end up beating in the face, or I have to, as he tries to attack, I have to really bind up high, I break the elbow, I have to push my point in, and I provide a lot of opportunity for him to feint and disengage and strike me in the belly. So all these things. So why don't you come up closer, we'll take a look at how to structure the hand so that you can support the sword. And how close do you want to be? So this is the grip that I see a lot of people taking. They grip way up on their sword. What you see is the big meat of the thumb is sitting on top of the grip or next to the grip. Their elbow sticks out. They can't really defend their elbow either, and so they end up kind of jabbing and fencing like this. So my recommendation is, and this comes from a long time working with Gary Chelak as well, so we've been sort of working on this for a long time. Just use no more than the first knuckle of your index finger, or of your third finger, or your index finger, wherever you put, in fact, it's always your third finger. Wherever you put your third finger, whether it's in front of the cross, behind the cross, don't use more than the very first part of it, right? Obviously for width, right? And then wrap your hand all the way around the back so that the big meaty part of the palm sits on top of the sword. You notice that the meaty part of my thumb is nowhere near the grip. It's sitting way up here, right? And so now I'm just using my fingers. I've got shorter fingers. If you have longer fingers, what you'll end up doing is sort of extending backwards along the thing instead of gripping upwards. So you don't have to use much of your fingers. And then I touch the front corner of the blade with my index finger and the back corner of the blade with my thumb, just a little bit, just to sort of pinch it. Just a little bit of a pinch. And what that does is it now elbow down, with my elbow down, my elbow's out, it hurts. With my elbow down in a straight line with my arm and my hand, now this is when Richard can push on my blade with his hand, and he can push right into that guard. I can stabilize that guard and that structure all the way through. Right, there we go. So, not much that he can do to knock that sword out of my hand. He can move the point around, but this is when I can now move him by using the skeletal structure of my body.
A dramatic difference.
It's a dramatic difference when you're holding the sword like this. So Richard's going to hold the old grip. Just the old grip. Richard's in the old grip, and when I come to attack him, he ends up having to make that parry where he lifts up high. This is what most people look at and see as a pretty proper fort. The problem I find when I'm fencing with this is what happens is he makes that action. I can easily bind over the top. At the very least, I dissuade him from striking me. And if he's got a low hand or something like that where he's trying to really lunge at me, I can easily sit on top of that sword. I can strike him in the back. I can bind through. I can strike him in the shoulder. I gain opportunities. I hit people like this all the time because their sword isn't strong enough in that bind to dissuade that, which is just third. It's really just third. So when Richard switches his hand over to what we just looked at, now when I make the same strike, he comes forwards. He doesn't have to do much with his hand at all, and he can now dissuade my point.
It feels totally different.
It feels like nothing. It doesn't, right? It doesn't feel like I'm doing anything at all. You can just go push your hand, palm, just push out your palm. Don't lift the hilt, right? So as I come, he pushes out with that palm, and he can just push that away. If he turns a little bit of a diagonal, just a little bit of a diagonal into a fourth, now I'm really screwed, right? And this is fourth, right? A lot of people try to make fourth this very flat thing, but when you read the text, you look at the demonstrations, they say fourth is your hand is inside your knee. Well, my hand is inside my knee. I don't have to be flat for my hand to be inside my knee. Anywhere inside this knee could theoretically be fourth, and we can leverage all the way out. When we get into that lunge, what ends up happening is as we extend, our sword will flatten out. And that flatten there in fourth helps extend the body and keep the leverage going. But that's when you're all the way out in your lengthy extension. But really, all you should really need is a nice little diagonal extension. If you're holding your hand proper in the sword, you shouldn't feel anything at all. Right?
It is pretty cool. So I'm a believer. So thanks so much. My name is Richard Marsden.
I'm Jeff Jacobson.
Thanks so much, guys.
See you at Swordsmanship.